everyone. Welcome to another episode of Elation's podcast on inclusive communication. June 28th marks National Insurance Awareness Day, and here at Elation, we're using this moment to celebrate something close to our mission: the small business owners and entrepreneurs who power local economies every day, as well as the insurance professionals who help protect them. Running a small business is already a leap of faith, and having the right coverage and the right advisor in your corner can make all the difference between a setback and a shutdown. That's why today we're spotlighting someone who embodies that role. Please welcome Kip Harris, a fully licensed insurance producer who has been in the field since 2016. Kip began his career at a captive insurance company before deciding to branch out and open his own agency. In December 2018, he took the entrepreneurial leap himself, launching his own franchise agency, and has been running it solo ever since, building a diverse book of business spanning personal lines, commercial lines, and life insurance. So, in honor of all the dedicated professionals like Kip, who support small businesses and entrepreneurs day in and day out, please join me in welcoming him to the show. Hi, Kip. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jerica. It is a pleasure to be here.
Yes, we're so excited to dive into this important discussion today. Before we get started, please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. So, thank you for the introduction. That does really summarize kind of what I've done in the industry of insurance. Prior to that, I was in retail for many, many years and really truly enjoy just the interactions that I have with people, which kind of led me to where I am today because I was in car sales. I was a sales manager, and really what I took pride in doing there was helping people understand how and what to do when purchasing a car. And I sort of transitioned that same philosophy into the insurance industry. So I do try to explain everything and make sure customers understand what insurance does for them, and to make sure that you have a good understanding of how insurance does work for you.
Yes, and I can attest to Kip's services. We work together, and he is excellent in helping you understand all the important aspects of business insurance and any other type of insurance that you need. So let's jump into the questions for today. What is National Insurance Awareness Day? I have to say, I didn't realize that was a thing until this year. So I'm learning a little bit too. And why is it important for individuals, families, and business owners to pay attention to it?
Absolutely. So it is an important day simply because as a consumer, you really want to have an understanding of what your insurance policies are doing for you. So it's the middle of the year. It typically coincides with a lot of things that happen with one's mortgage and their escrow accounts. You really just want to take some time to review what you have and what is important or what changes you might need to make. Now, you might ask, well, why do I need to do that? So everyone's life changes. I mean, there are changes throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout the week. So when you have these life changes, it does affect you financially. And what my job is to make sure that you are protected financially, whether it's a home, your business, or something else. And my job is to make sure that you understand exactly what the insurance is doing for you.
Okay, well said, Kip. Well said. So what are some of the most common misconceptions people have about insurance coverage and financial protection?
So I'll tell you, you can attest to this too. Insurance is expensive these days, particularly here in Maryland, and I get it. So I understand that a lot of people are really conscious about making an effort and saving money. And that's certainly a goal for probably 90% of the people. But what you don't want to do is to sacrifice coverage for to save a couple of dollars, right? So there are some misconceptions which I believe are people don't think life insurance is important. They don't think it's important for or it's for the elderly. People don't understand what low deductibles do and how a higher deductible could benefit them. So there are a number of, I mean, I could go on for hours of things that people really try to mitigate in terms of insurance, but not necessarily in the right, maybe beneficial to them, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Okay, well said. And so I like to explore this a little further for small business owners. What do
Mhm.
you think are some essential areas to have for insurance coverage?
Certainly liability insurance for sure, right? So that's the number one product that you should have is to help mitigate any legal lawsuits that might arise. We all know that, particularly here in the state of Maryland too, mitigate or litigation is rampant. I mean, you could be sued for anything. And having an umbrella, whether it's commercial or personal, could help you alleviate some of those costs or out of pocket expenses down the road. Because I could sue you just for looking at you, right? If I don't like the way you looked at me, and all of a sudden I could levy a lawsuit against you. Now, it may not stick in court, but what happens is you end up with a bunch of expenses that you didn't expect. And that's where certain protections could help you alleviate that those costs.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so let's move on. How can insurance professionals better communicate complex insurance concepts in ways that are accessible, understandable, and actionable? And we just discussed this before we started today.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
can you speak to this?
Yes. So, look, the legalese that the insurance documents are written on is complex, and it is very difficult for sometimes me to understand. And I have to reread, I've got to research, or I will go back in and maybe even call an underwriter and say, "Hey, look, basically explain this to me in layman's terms. I
Mhm.
need to make sure that I can present this to a customer so that they understand it."
Mhm.
So that's one thing is making sure that I can explain things in very basic terms that are not insulting by any means, but of course, giving you the understanding of what insurance does. So that's one. You might also attest to this too. I typically ask the same questions over and over again. And it's not because I don't believe, but I want to make sure I understand exactly what you're asking me to do, exactly what you're looking for. So I can reiterate that and then I can regurgitate it and send it back to you. And typically I'll do that in an email. So I might recap our conversation and say, look, thank you for taking the time. This is what we talked about. And I just want to make sure that we are confirmed on moving forward with this particular step, right? So reiterating things really does help to understand for me, for one, and for the consumer, for two, what exactly we're doing for them. Open-ended questions. I mean, this is, basic sales stuff, right? So I want to ask you a question and I want to get as much information from you as possible. The more information that I have as an agent, the better I can provide the right solution for you. So we will ask lots of questions. Sometimes, the emails could go back and forth, text messages could go back and forth. I mean, it could take 20 or 30 minutes to get through to exactly what you're looking for. But certainly helping to understand where we're going next is really my biggest goal.
Well, I like the way you describe the open communication, the connection that's important to have with your insurance broker. And I'm not sure if everyone actually provides that level of service, Kip. I'm grateful that you do. I know you're always accessible, and that's very important to me. And so I think that's part of the partnership that you're describing. So what insurance gaps or risks? Do you see people overlooking most often, and what steps can they take to better protect themselves?
So again, we know insurance is expensive, right? So everyone wants to lower their costs, and myself included. Um, but again, we don't want to sacrifice coverage. So one of the gaps I see is, and this is very frustrating in Maryland. It's the state minimum limits on auto insurance.
Hmm.
Well, reducing those limits really does help to increase the cost of insurance for all of us. And here's why I say that. So, if someone has state minimum limits, they have an accident, they don't have enough coverage to provide you with a solution. Maybe you were the person that was hit in an accident. So then your insurance now has to take over and take and make payment, which is only going to increase your costs down the future, right? Down the road. So if we could simply just go into having higher limits, particularly on uninsured motorist limits, I think down the road we'll find out that your cost of insurance will actually lessen. Not only does that happen, but there's a thing called an insurance score. So the higher your limits you have, the better your insurance score is, and down the road, the better your premiums. Now, I keep saying down the road because this is not instant. And I have an example of a couple of customers who told me, the one guy said, I believe you because you haven't steered me wrong yet. And we started out 4 or 5 years ago as a state minimum limit customer. And then we gradually moved him up to higher limits, particularly because he's a homeowner. So when you're a homeowner, for sure, you definitely want to have liability limits and help to cover everything, including your home.
Hmm.
So once we finally got there, he then started to see that his premiums started to come down. And as a result, he then paid me that sort of comment and said, "Hey, man, I really appreciate it because you really haven't steered me wrong yet." And everything I've said to him to that point, because we had a plan, once we followed that plan, it really did come to fruition for him, and he was pretty happy. Still a
Mm.
customer to this day, I must say. So I can't really thank him enough for that.
Yeah, that's a great example. And working with you, I've also learned about savings with just really combo. So having the auto, the house, even the business. Can you speak to some of the benefits in doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So bundling certainly does help to lower your costs. I mean, every insurance company out there wants to have all of your insurance needs. So if you have a home, a car, a business, a boat, whatever it is, every single insurance company would like to insure everything for you. And in doing so, they would provide you discounts on all those products. One of the pieces that I think a lot of people are missing too is umbrella insurance. So it's not just for the people who have money. It's not just for the rich or the wealthy or those who have means. It's for everybody. And it can be very affordable because it does help to mitigate any extraneous lawsuits that might arise because it provides that coverage and it provides those costs as you go through litigation. So that's one. And then two, and these aren't necessarily bundled options, but natural disasters are happening far more often in places where they haven't before today than they ever have, right? So we'll talk about flooding. Well, we're not in a floodplain where we live. But if you think back just a few years ago, there were some severe floods that were results of rainfall. So
Mhm.
rainfall alone can cause a flood, which then will help prevent or cause significant damage in a neighborhood, not just your house, but in an entire neighborhood.
Mhm.
We've had earthquakes, right? This isn't California, but in fact, we've had earthquakes here. So those are some of the coverages that I would encourage people to think about today, even though we may not be in those necessarily in those particular areas.
Hmm. Okay, thank you challenging us to think a little more broadly. So looking ahead, how is the insurance industry evolving and what trends should consumers and organizations be paying attention to?
Most of the companies today offer sort of a personalized premium, and you can get that if you can participate in a lot of their telematics. So not only do you have the opportunity to lower your own insurance by good driving behaviors, but you also have certain household items like water detection, leak detection, gas or carbon dioxide detection. These things are devices that you can put in your home that could also provide discounts for you as well. And not only do they provide the discount, but they're life-saving, sort of damage saving devices. If you knew that your hot water tank had a leak and it automatically shut off your water supply when that occurred, then you just salvaged quite a bit of damage and a lot of personal items that you might have in your home. So there are these trends that are probably in the last 5 or 6 years have actually been taking root pretty good. And a lot of these companies will provide those devices for you up front, and then, of course, there might be an annual or monthly fee down the road, but it does pay off to know, right? So if I know a disaster might occur in advance or immediately, I have a chance to actually, salvage some of those things.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's an added element I have not thought about. So I mean, I think that's talking to precautionary steps. Do you see
Mhm.
insurance being very much about precaution, or do you think there's other elements that people or views that people should be considering insurance to serve?
So I definitely think the companies are moving towards the preventative method, right? So rather than have a disaster or claim, let's try to prevent that or prevent as much damage as possible. And one thing that I don't know that a lot of homeowners might understand is that when you do have a loss, your number one priority is to mitigate further damage. So, for instance, it's raining today. You discover a leak in your ceiling, you see the wall might be a little soft. Well, immediately we need to find out where that is and figure out how we can stop further damage. So that's the first priority of every homeowner. And I learned this as a claimant once filing a claim before I was even in this industry.
Mhm.
And once I understood exactly what my role was, I was like, okay, great. So I don't know that a lot of people know that. Hence the reason I'm doing this and in this business to make sure that we all understand what we should do and what insurance can do for us. So that's one. And another thing too that you probably have seen in the news, people's identities are being stolen, cybersecurity, you get hacked. My computer, in fact, 2 months ago, somehow acquired some kind of virus, and I couldn't work for a day until my IT department actually got involved and fixed it for me. So these are also some preventative measures that you could apply to your insurance, right? So there are certain protective devices. And then there's coverage to help you take care of those losses if, in fact, you do experience it too. So there's a lot of things that the insurance industry is doing to keep up, and that's the best thing about this industry. It's ever changing, just like our lives. So as we continue to grow in our life, so does the insurance product to help mitigate and also protect the assets that you have.
Thanks, Kip. Yes, you certainly have opened our eyes to see different ways that insurance is, is needed. And so, thank you for that today. Thanks for joining the show today. So, let us know, how do you plan to celebrate National Insurance Awareness Day?
Excellent question. So I plan to review my products as well, and certainly am open to reviewing anybody's products. Now, I will say this, I need to get better at reaching out to my consumers to do that. But anytime anyone ever reaches out to me and has a question, even if you're not insured with me, like my friends always ask me questions, I'm not going to tell them no, right? I'll tell them what I do know, and not necessarily what I know about their policies because I may not have seen them, but I can tell them some basic information and what I would recommend doing. So the insurance industry is broad, and certainly I'd like to help anyone I can because listen, man, you teach one, each one teach one, and everybody's going to be better off down the road. So my information is not secret.
Yes, I love that, Kip. Thanks so much for that message today. And that's really part of our mission here at Elation on our Inclusive Communications podcast is to bring enlightenment and to invite all voices to the conversation. So we appreciate you joining and adding your voice. So tell us a little bit more on how to stay connected to you. I'm sure there may be a few viewers and listeners who might want to take you up on that and reach out and ask you some questions. How can they do that?
Absolutely. So you can find me online. It's really simple. Kip Harris. It's KIPHARRIS. I'm at Goosehead Insurance. And if you simply Google my name, it should pop up pretty quickly. I'm also on LinkedIn. I have a page on Facebook. Don't do much on Instagram. That's probably an area I need to work on. But I can easily be found, and all of my phone numbers and contact information are going to be listed on there. In fact, on my webpage with Goosehead, you could very easily start your own quote, which would then send a message to me to reach out to you. And, we could actually talk about, what you're looking for.
Wonderful, Kip. Well, thanks again for joining our show today. We certainly hope that you will come back and join us again to continue the conversation. We wish you a great National Insurance Awareness Day. And to our listeners, thank you for joining in today. You can follow Elation on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Jerica Talks, on YouTube at Elation Communications, LinkedIn at Elation-Communications, and on Facebook at Elation Comms. And until next time, become an inclusive communicator. Thank you.